All right, I show 5:30. I realized that normally people will trickle in, but let's go ahead and get started and we can go through the boilerplate while people are coming. So Tarek is also online. I'm Tony Lee, and we're off and going.
Thanks.
This is our note well. This gives you all of your responsibilities as an IETF participant. In particular, this does obligate you to report IPR. People don't seem to understand that. Hello, please read this. Let's see, please log into Meet Echo if you haven't already. Here are the links for Zulip. Tarek is going to be doing some minute taking, but he would welcome other people. Please jump in there. And links for the agenda, the materials, data tracker, the wiki, and GitHub. Here's our agenda today, the status update, which we're doing now. We're going to talk about Substack solution. We're going to talk a little bit about PostStack, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about IOAM. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about IOAM. And finally, we will deal with deterministic latency. Any agenda bashing? Okay. We had one errata. This was reported by Loa. This is a minor tweak to some text in 8029. And another errata. This is in 8960. Also some minor text improvement. No liaison happening. Documents. We have been moving forward documents. We have 2 new RFCs. We have a stack of docs sitting on the RFC editor's queue. We have 1 new working group doc. We have a bunch of docs in the IESG right now. Lots to go. And we have a bunch of other updated working group docs that we are, of course, trying to push forward and push out as quickly as possible. We have a few docs that have not had a recent update and nothing that has recently expired. And we have a few new individual docs. And we still have many alive individual docs. So this is, I'm going to let people read this for themselves. So please comment on the list. I don't think this is a real big deal, but.
So I have a question, clarification for Loa and authors of the proposal. So the claim is that the protocol was, or the protocol was not given a name, the messages were defined, and implicitly it was assumed it's a protocol, but it wasn't given a name. And now we're trying to term it as that is the understanding. People are, well aware of this. It's a de facto now LSP ping and LSP trace. So maybe I'm trying to trigger, an appetite to respond on this topic. But, the authors are free to comment further. Thanks.
right. And since there's no further comment, jumping forward into slides. Who's presenting for this?
Jags. Is Jags in the audience? Okay. I'm not sure if Jags is remote or in the audience.
He's in the queue.
The virtual queue. Actually, yeah. So go ahead, Jags.
Could you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello,
Yes.
could you hear me? Okay.
We
Yes,
can hear
okay.
you, but you're a little quiet.
Okay. Yeah, could you hear me now?
That's good.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Tony. Today I'm going to discuss about the updates which we made on our draft MPLS M&A header on behalf of our authors. Can you please move to next slide? Yeah, so during the working group last call, actually, like we got a lot of comments from the viewers. Thank you for the comments. We try to update all the comments. And then we have one pending comment. Let's discuss one by one in our next slides. Next slide, please.
I've given you slide control.
Okay, sure. Okay. So in our discussion, there was a ask, like how to extend the format B LSC. So previously, if you see on the left-hand side, like we have the format B LSC, where actually we don't have the network action length. Now actually we added the network action length to make sure that the format B could be extended and add an additional data to the format B LSC. So apart from that, actually we have moved the U and NASL field to the left-hand side because we want to make sure that the NAL field of format B and format C are in line. So that's the reason we aligned the fields in the format B. So next, so if you see the left-hand, the previous format C LSC, like we don't have UBIT. Okay, so previously what we had is that UBIT per NAS. So that we assume that like in the NAS, all the opcodes has the same unknown network action handling. But apparently, like if you have different opcodes could have a different unknown network action handling. So that cannot be classified and within the same M&A substack. So so what we thought is like to optimize this specific unknown action handling. So we added the UBIT as part of each opcode so that the multiple unknown action handling could be carried in the same M&A header. So that's the reason we added the UBIT and the format C. As well as like the NAL actually like we changed it to 3 bits to align with the format B LSC. So previously we had the opcode B where actually in some cases like opcode B may not be filled in. So previously like we were using the flag based opcode with the zeros to fill in those. So now actually like we added a specific, we reserved a specific opcode 2, which could be used for no operation, so that that specific opcode B may not be empty. Yeah, thanks for the University of Tübingen. They have implemented our draft using the P4 pipeline. So we have added this implementation status as part of our new update. So this is our pending command currently. Basically like sharing the data between the network actions. So there was some discussion about how to share the same ancillary data among the multiple opcodes. So and then we came to consensus that like we can add some statement so that this the current mechanism could allow the ancillary data to be shared among the different network actions. Okay, so that was the pending one. So these are our next steps. Please let us know like if we missed out any current comments. Also, like we welcome new comments and suggestions, and then we will ask for a complete working group loss call. Thanks, Tony. Any questions? Yeah, we can talk now on this.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to get a confirmation from the authors that there are no outstanding issues raised or during the first working group last call, so that we can progress on the process of this getting published. So either drop an email to remind people who gave comments on the first working group last call. I think it would be best if we send an email reminder, or if you confirm that all of the issues were addressed in the latest revision. Thank you.
Sure, Tariq. We will send a reminder email about anything missed out, and we can update it later once we get.
Jidong?
Yeah, Zedong from Huawei. Just want to check about the implementation report. Is that one comply with the latest version or the previous version?
It was compliant with the previous version.
Okay. Another question is about you have the text about the sharing of the ancillary data among multiple actions, right? Actually, I think maybe some further consideration would be needed about how we can improve the efficiency of the ancillary data encoding if one ancillary data need to be used by multiple actions, such as the flow ID may be used by many flow-specific actions. So this kind of things need to be considered further. This may relate to the text here, but maybe we also need to consider the options of carrying such information more efficiently in the ISD.
So we still haven't seen any text from anyone that suggests that there's a problem in this document that needs to be addressed. All right. Thank you very much. We're moving on.
Thank you.
Host stack.
Again, it's Jack again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tariq. Yeah, so here actually I'm going to update our PS M&A header draft. So here actually like we did some editorial changes, and we changed some of the network action headers, and there are some ongoing discussions we'll discuss, and then we'll see our next step. Okay, so as I described before, like in M&A header solution, like we have changed the format BLSE, so we update those headers here as well to make sure that it's aligned with our M&A header draft. So in the M&A draft, right? So each opcode has the U bit to indicate the unknown network action handling. So we want to make sure that same thing is going to be applied for the post-stack network actions as well. So we added the U bit for each opcode to make sure that each opcode has unknown post-stack network action handling. So while discussion, right? So we there was a discussion about the nibble what we use currently. Should we want to use zero as the nibble value, or define a new first nibble value for the specific post-stack header? So this is a discussion, is ongoing discussion. Probably we can come to consensus on the mailing group. Another discussion actually we had in our mailing group is the P bit, right? So currently in our draft we have a P bit in the format B LSE, which will indicate the presence of post-stack data. So there was a discussion whether we want to use the P bit or use the opcode instead to identify the presence of the presence of the post-stack network actions. During the PS discussion, right? So there was a discussion about the RLD requirement for PSD. So generally, this RLD is for both, in-stack or post-stack. It's going to be common. Apart from that, we were suggesting that we were thinking that we could use the U flag. If currently we have in-stack opcode, which we allocate to identify the offset of our post-stack data. So could we use the U bit corresponding to that that opcode to identify whether the system could handle read the required length of the post-stack data. So apart from this U bit, we are planning to add the length of the post-stack data in the opcode, in the new opcode. Okay, so this is a very main discussion which is going on. Why do we need post-stack network actions at all, right? So can we use instead of that we can use in-stack network actions. So as mentioned in our M&A use cases, right? So the IOM case, which includes the pre-allocated trace load options use cases, right? For those, we may need parameters like the recorded timestamp and the interface IDs that needs to be collected along the path, right? So these data is going to be huge, and also these data will be changing, will be modified by the intermediate nodes. So when it modified in the intermediate nodes, we cannot be compatible with the older ECMP hashing. That is one of the problem if you use the in-stack M&A. Also, the in-stack M&A has the stack limitation. One substack can contain only maximum of 56 bits of data. So if you want to have multiple, then you need to duplicate the M&A stack in the in-stack M&A stack. So if we encode it in the post stack, it could be continuously we can encode things. So following that the M&A use case, actually there is a draft M&A MPLS M&A IOM DEX 01 draft, so which talks about how the post stack solution could be used for IOM and IOM DEX use cases. Okay, yeah. So as I discussed, right? So like it looks like the use cases and the requirements are in line with our post-stack draft. Also, like we have one of the draft and the use case currently. So we request a working group review comments and suggestions, and also like we request working group adoption, and let's discuss this issue and then revise this working group document. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Jags. Greg?
Greg Mirsky Erickson. Okay, so I don't understand why there is a differentiation between IAM and IAM direct expert, because direct expert is just the different way of collecting their information. The paradigm of functionality of on-path telemetry, collecting operational state and performance data is the same. It's based on IAM header. How it's collected, that's something that we can discuss. So I would not say that, that requires POSTEC data because we want to transport this data in the same packet. Because if we look at from the point of ROD issue, for example, putting in POSTEC data will require more information to be put into their descriptor that not merely indicates that the POSTEC data is present, but probably will require information that will give the node sufficient information to determine that this POSTEC data block, ancillary data, would not force, would not impose performance impact on processing because it will be out of fast cache for this. So, or that information to be flooded in the control plane. I don't see that being discussed in this document now. So, in my opinion, that it's not really the POSTEC data is in requirements. The POSTEC data is an option. And so far, I don't think that it was been demonstrated that there is a use case that working group agreed, documented in use case, M&A use case documents that cannot be solved using ISD. So I think that that's something that there was an agreement that we use ISD whenever it's possible, and then PSD if it cannot be solved with ISD. Of course, in the meantime, the proponents of PSD can work on improving their proposed solution. But as of now, I don't see that it really addresses their ROD concern with the PSD. Thank you.
Tarek?
Yes, I will start from where Greg left off. The use cases draft did not try to propose a solution. And yes, we did try to talk about the use case, but it's up to the working group to dictate how they want to solve the use case, either in post-stack or not in post-stack. That was comment one. And the second about the P flag, I heard from Jags that the authors are thinking of deprecating that and relying on the opcode itself. Implications would be that the same action we define, we expect it to be either an in-stack only action or post-stack action, but not both with the P flag. Are we expecting no action to be applicable for both? Is that why you're thinking of the P flag? That's what my question is.
P flag is just an optimization, right? So like instead of wasting an opcode, so we are thinking we could use p bit and then find the distance of the post tag. But another
Okay,
option
maybe I
actually,
misunderstood. You are proposing the P flag or removing the P flag?
it is removing the P flag. That's what actually we're thinking about it. That's what actually we said. Can use currently we have a P flag. Another
Right.
option is can use opcode instead. That's a question to the working group.
Okay, thanks. We'll take it to the mailing list.
Joel? Joel Halpern. Going once, going twice. Okay, Rakesh.
Rakesh Gandhi from Cisco Systems. There was a question Greg asked, why IOAM and IOAM DEX? It's because IOAM is RFC 9197 and IOAM DEX is a different RFC, is 9326. So idea is that all of the data fields defined in these two different RFCs could be added as a post-tech data with some advantages that we will see in the following presentation. So there was one comment. The second thing that was asked is that we said we'll try to solve all problems using ISD solutions. I don't think we agreed on that. I think post-tech is definitely on the table, and there are many use cases, many advantages of using post-tech, and we will see it in a moment. Thank you.
How are you?
Yes, Hao Yusong from Shui. I just want to remind everybody that the postcard mode and the passport modes are two very distinct modes. Both are very useful, and on the other hand, passport mode, which is carrying the telemetry data in the packet, is very useful. It's allow fast pass processing, and the receiver side can quickly, in one RTT time, then quickly react to the collected data to the source. So this is a unique advantage compared with postcard mode. So I think it's very useful, but to carry such data, it has to use a PSD. So I think it's a very useful mode we cannot ignore. Thank you.
And Joel.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so the point I was trying to make is probably similar to part of what Greg had to say. If we are going to entertain use cases that say they support the need for PSD, then they have to explain how they work if the stack is bigger than the readable label depth. The drafts I have seen on the IOAM that argue that we need to use PSD for this do not explain what happens when the label stack is too big. Without that, I don't see how we can treat that as a resolved problem and move on to exactly what a PSD solution looks like. Thank you.
Hey, Joel, R&D is issues for both ISD and PSD. Yeah, so it's not just for PSD.
All right, moving on, next presentation.
That would be Greg.
Does it work?
No, that doesn't.
That
I'll
doesn't work.
flip this
You'll help me.
slides.
Thank you. Okay. Hi. So this is update. Please, next slide. So I appreciate the discussion we had, and yes, so their mutability is issue. One of their concern for their existing nodes that use label stack information to generate entropy for load balancing of MPLS encapsulated packets. That's an important thing. So we're taking that into consideration, and thus we modified their flow ID and sequence number. So the flow ID obviously stays constant for the given flow, but sequence number, so it's supposed to help, but it's optional field that's supposed to help the correlate packets if the raw data being exported. So obviously that can be affecting if the node in a system transit node uses this to generate entropy value. So let's take a look at how that changes their proposed format. Next slide, please. Okay, so as you see, so now we are taking the fuller advantage of format LSC format D. And now for the case if there are systems using this label stack information, so that for their sequence number can be contained in upper 18 bits. So which gives us 2K space range of packets before it wraps. But for the correlation, we believe that it's sufficient space. There are use cases there, and ECMP is prohibited. For example, DetNet over MPLS. For DetNet over MPLS to achieve the objectives of deterministic networking, so the path has to be fully expressed, strict, and without ECMP. So in that environments like DetNet, so the full advantage of the full space of 30 bits can be taken. Or if it's known that system uses other means of generating entropy, for example, using entropy label. And besides, because this is optional, there are methods of other methods of correlating their operational state information generated on a node, not necessarily sending each packet. For example, IBPM working group has a working group document that describes hybrid two-step protocol that follows the same path as a data trigger packet, collecting information and thus correlating it without use of sequence information. So the sequence field can be omitted altogether, and even further reducing their impact of IAM DEX on MPLS stack, flow ID can be omitted. So again, there are other ways of solving this problem, mutability. Next slide, please. So we welcome further discussion, your comments and considerations. Thank you.
How are you?
Yeah, this is Haoyu from FutureWay. As a chief author of the RFC 9326, I don't think this can be called IOM DX because the reason is very simple. You go to the previous slides, the format is totally different from what's specified in that RFC. Because of the bottom stack bits and the leading one bit. You change the width of the many data fields. So it's totally different. I simply don't think it can be called IOM DEX anymore.
Yes, it's IAM DEX over MPLS. We have constraints of MPLS networks, and then we implement the functionality that is allowed by MPLS network encapsulation. So do you see the functionally it's different? It allows collection all the information elements that's being defined so far, and even allows the same extension. So if more information elements defined for IAM registry will be supported by this approach.
Yeah, first, I think the term IOMDX is well
That's
specified. Second, if you put it into the IOM framework, you should follow the basic specification of IOM. For example, the IOM namespace. Now you change it to, because of the leading bit, you shorten it. So it's a different, it doesn't comply with the framework anymore. I think that's a bigger problem.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, flow ID and sequence number are optional fields in base IAMDEX specification.
Yes, they are optional, and also it's extensible. It can allow even more optional fields. But yeah, even for the option, they have well-defined format. It's already specified.
No, optional to
we
me
have
means...
for example, we have 32 bits flow ID.
No,
now you have a 30 bits.
Okay, optional to me means it's might be omitted altogether. So if we omit altogether, that would be IOMDEX still, right?
No, if I need a 32 bits flow ID, you can only put 30 bits there.
No, but
it's different.
Okay, let's go back. If you insist on analyzing based on base IOMDEX RFC 9328, if I remember correctly. So not including optional fields, would that be IOMDEX in your definition?
Of course.
So what's the problem? We don't include it for some implementations, and we define optional fields differently for MPLS network.
I'm going to exercise my prerogative here. If you guys want to have a semantic argument on the mailing list, feel free, but this is not constructive at this point. The functionality is what we care about, not the naming. Okay, let's move on. Rakesh?
Rakesh Gandhi from Cisco Systems. Greg, you could go back to the slide where you were showing a sequence number and flow ID, please. So this is extensible, right? You could have, I believe they have in IPPM defined 10 or more of such IOM fields. So there are being, because that's what the extension flags mean, right? You can have a lot more than this.
Well, actually, extension flags are not defined because basically there is no definition of extension flags.
No, but this is not, you're showing 2 right now, but you can have lot more than those 2 data fields, is it? Or is it that in MPLS we're only going to have these 2 and then no more?
Okay, IMDEX is not in RFC 9328. Does not define anything for extension flags. They're just, as good as reserved fields.
Because what I understand that you can have timestamp, but there are a lot of other extensions you can have with this.
But again, it's something that it's not yet been defined. So I don't understand what the question is.
Maybe we can discuss offline. I can show you all the drafts where define the extensions.
No, drafts, again, we are not implementing drafts here. We're implementing RFC.
But I'm saying that this is extensible, so you can have a lot more data fields than this.
Okay, when IPPM working group will define it, then we will look at how to support it in M&A, of course.
And the second question is that if there is an RLD problem, will this affect as well, or this, because it's an ISD, it will not affect?
That's a good question. So I believe that RLD is a very significant obstacle to M&A. And that's why, on purpose, this proposal is only for direct export so that it would not aggravate RLD issue. Because I believe that transporting their operational state in a trigger packet makes it more challenging because of RLD.
So if it's just for exporting, there are 3 other proposals as well that is just done to do the per hop telemetry. So maybe we should look at all other proposals as well.
Yeah, no, of course, there could be a different ways to look at the problem, but again, because of ROD, so and because of the limiting their impact on label spec depth, so the proposal is to use only direct export mode, and as I mentioned, if it coupled with the hybrid two-step proposal, then it even further reduce the impact by removing 2 optional fields, because there will be correlation will be done by using hybrid two-step, for example.
Yeah, so there are proposals like that as well. So maybe we should look at it, which is much shorter than this.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Jags?
Could you unmute? Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, Greg, actually, you said that by adding the flow ID, you can eliminate the mutation part. But actually, like if the mid nodes are not still a legacy routers, right? Then actually, like you're going to have the same problem on the mid nodes. But actually, it might use the different hashes if there are different um, values in the LSC for the same flow.
Well, I don't think that actually, again, if there are 2 approaches to address the mutability issue with the IAM DEX. So first, either limit the space that used for sequence number, or don't use optional fields and use the mechanism of collecting data that provides you correlation because of the nature of that method. I will send the reference to this document that I referred to that being adopted by their IPPM working group, hybrid two-step.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, thank you.
Next presentation.
Rakesh?
That doesn't work.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Rakesh Gandhi from Cisco Systems. So presenting the draft for the IOM and IOM direct export for MPLS. On behalf of the co-authors, we have a couple of vendors and a couple of operators who are interested in this work. So we'll go over the solution. Next slide, please. So we look at the requirements and scope of the draft. Specifically, the IOM has multiple option types, edge-to-edge proof of transit, and IOM trace. Trace has pre-allocated as well as incremental. There is another RFC for the IOM direct export that defines another option type. There are the solution, it has 2 pieces. One is the in-stack network action with the post-stack network action offset is kind of a pointer to where the data fields are, and the post-stack with data fields and the next steps. Next slide, please. So draft has been around for a while. It's more than 5 years now. I've been working ever since the IOM itself used to be a draft, has gone through many iterations of various encodings, including the GSCH and previous versions of MNA. We renamed the draft to highlight the fact that this is a MNA-based solution, and that's what we're presenting today. Next slide, please. So as we discussed, it is to transport the IOM option types in MPLS networks as well as the direct export. These use cases are described in the MNA use cases draft. All option types are listed in the use cases, and we said we will work on them. The scope, there are a couple of RFCs from IPPM working group. So we'll use the M&A solution for in-stack, post-stack as well. And of course, when we talk about post-stack, there's always the first nibble that we had to worry about. Next slide, please. So the solution is in a way quite simple. There are, thanks to the extensibility of the M&A solution in stack, the opcode, the network action is defined that says that I need to perform IOAM network action, and there is a pointer to where the data fields are. That's in the post stack. And we'll look at the advantages why the data fields are in post stack and not right in the label stack. Similarly, if you're doing direct export, there is another opcode defined for it. It's a different RFC, so there is a different opcode for it. Different data fields are a bit different there as well. The rest applies that comes from the M&A solution. Next slide, please. And then we have the same TLV, just like in-stack, that to carry the post-stack network ops action. Works the same way. There is an opcode, 7-bit, there is a length and the data, and data is basically the options that define for in IOAM RFCs 9197 or 9326. Next slide, please. So why we defined data fields in post-stack network actions? There are obvious advantages of carrying data fields in post-stack. One is that you don't have to worry about ECMP hashing. It only uses the in-stack, so data fields are out of the way. All of the encodings are based on the RFC that IPPM worked on to define all of the encodings and data fields and spend years and years developing. So we're just using, leveraging the work there. And IOM has a lot of extensibility. There's a lot of data fields that we add. So in case there is an RLD issue, for example, the post-stack data is out of your way because you can say you don't support the network action and you can go to the next one in stack right away. So there are some advantages like that. If you're doing direct export or telemetry or things like that on a per hop basis, a lot of the data fields are like metadata. It's just used to export the packet used by the controller. So it can easily be in post-stack data. You don't need to be in stack. Take it out of the way. So those are the advantages why we think the post-stack is a good option. Next slide, please. So few INA requests. So we already have an M&A solution in the working blast calls, a couple of opcodes defined, and the same kind of TLV for post-stack with opcode definitions as well. And it will say this is IOM, and you have pointed to where the data fields are. Next slide, please. So yeah, welcome your review comments and suggestions. We did send an email to the working group mailing list for the working group adoption. And that's all I have for this deck. Thanks.
Comments, questions? Greg, please come to the mic.
Hi, Greg Mirsky. So if we can go to the example that shows the pre-allocated use of PSD. So because that, yeah, here. So that probably is easier to illustrate and explain what I was asking Jack, is that because the pre-allocated space aggravates, in my opinion, the ROD issue, because even that header might be within ROD, their allocated space for the data might be beyond it. So how a node can deduce whether that's the case or not, because only with indication of the presence of post-stack data, it appears that there is no sufficient information to understand and take the appropriate action, because the implementation needs to probably will have a compromise, whether contribute data or skip it and keep their wire speed forwarding. So that's the case. Probably it's more the question. It's not for Eurocache, not for this proposal, but for a more generic PSD header. So basically, that's what Joel, I believe, I understand his question, was asking is how that information can be conveyed so that each node down the stream can determine and make the action. And basically, and again, that probably would be implementation specific, but there needs to be information that can be read from the header information which is a part of the ISD.
Yeah, I can answer that, and that's a good question. I think we had a mailing list discussion as well. Let's say that RLD is 128 byte, and you have a label which is 4 byte. So let's say you have 10 labels, which is 40 bytes. And the path tracing header that we have defined that has embedded interface ID as well as the short timestamps. So that's a 48 byte header. So if you add that, that's only 88 byte of RLD. The node can do 128 byte. So we know from based on our experience that we can do path tracing with much lesser RLD than node is capable of. So that's one data point. And to answer your second question, how does a node know the RLD? So it knows because we define, if you go to the previous slide, Tony, please. So we define the network action. So it says TBA means I need to do IOAM, the path tracing. And then it says that offset is, let's say, 32 bytes from the bottom of the stack. So based on this information, say, oh, I cannot go 32 byte because my RLD is so much. Let's say if there is a node that's not capable of certain RLD. So this gives you, because that's why we have the pointer or offsets. It says, oh, I cannot go that deep. I cannot support this IOM. There is an unknown action handling defined, and you're going to skip IOM, and you will move to the next network action.
Yes. So see, and because basically you use only an example saying, okay, if we collect their ingress interface information and timestamp, but the profile, their IAM informational elements, that's much more, they're richer than that. You can add residence time, you can have some more. So basically, why then use all this space, namespace that has different options of collecting informational elements that we're saying, oh, don't use them because that will impact your forwarding performance because you will be out of ROD, or skip this node because this node has too shallow ROD. Okay, so we have this powerful and very useful tool, but we limiting ourselves and using it and applying it because of other things. So that raises the different question of maybe we need to use it differently. Okay, might be not to use it as a hammer, but use it really as a microscope. Okay, thank you.
So thanks, Greg. And I think we need to go in steps. So let's say we define per hop delay measurement using the timestamp recorded on each hop. So that's the use case we can easily address. Then we define the next use case where we can trace a packet path in the network using interface ID. That's easy to define. So you can easily define the data fields and you can extend it based on the RLD of the node. So it is possible, and we can discuss offline. Any more?
All right, thank you, Prakash. Let's move on to our deterministic latency talk.
Thank you.
Zuyan?
Okay, hello everyone. Yeah, thank you, Tony. Hello everyone. Good evening. It's Yan from ZTE. Here to talk about the MNA for deterministic latency. Next slide. Okay. First, we'd like to acknowledge the comments from Adrian Ferriel, Luberger, Greg Mursky, and Lo Edison. And we'd like to thank for your attention because this draft has been presented at IETF 116 and 180 meetings. Okay. This
You're
draft
breaking up.
provides okay.
Your
Okay.
voice is breaking up very badly.
This draft, my voice is too. And
Your
is this
voice has
better?
become non-deterministic.
Not determined. Sorry. Can you hear me clearly?
I'm sorry. This is pretty clearly not working. Rakesh, since you're
Okay.
here, would you like to take over?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Rakesh.
Thanks, Yuan. This draft, deterministic latency, bounded latency use case for .NET that's described in the M&A use case draft. And .NET also has a document that requires some of this, that talks about some of these requirements for .NET scaling. So we're trying to address those two requirements using an M&A action defined. You can go to the next slide, please. So there is a bit of a terminology. We just wanted to make sure that when we talk about deterministic latency, we're talking about it's a latency that we can control. It's deterministic. It can vary a bit, but then if it varies, we know what the bounds are as well. It's measurable. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about deterministic latency. And network action is basically the M&E network action for this particular use case. Next slide, please. So it's straightforward. Thanks to the TLV type of M&A solution, there is an opcode and the length, obviously, and some of the data basically related to the deterministic latency. Also a couple of ADs we added. There is already some work done for the F label or S label to map into particular queues and things like that. And this is, we call it enhanced deterministic latency because of the added value. Next slide, please. So there is a lot of good discussions in the NetNet about what data should be carried. There's a huge list of data, and obviously, in theory, there can be a lot of parameters, but what really makes sense is the queuing method and the timestamp. Some of the deadline kind of information that this requires a certain of delay bound, and this is the timestamp, this is the delay bound, and we need to respect that. One good thing that was alluded before is that .NET doesn't have ECMP issue, so it allows you to put things like timestamp into the label stack. Next slide, please. So draft has been around. It has gone through a couple of very good reviews, and many thanks to everyone who provided review comments. And the authors, we believe the draft is ready for working group adoption.
Any comments or questions? We have 1 minute.
Yes, for me. Thanks, Rakesh, and authors. So this is, it's a .NET related use case, and I think it is in the proper place because we're defining the data plane encoding for the solution in MPLS. Nevertheless, are you planning to present, or have you presented this in the .NET working group to get their feedback. We've done that in the past, and I remember the DetNet working group chairs asked to be kept in the loop. So what's your feedback on that?
So there was a good discussion with DetNet chair about this, and this resulted in the simplification that we see, that it only has a couple of parameters. The previous version of the draft had lots of parameters, and it would be difficult to implement. So that's why that's the simplification came from the discussion with the DetNet chair, but maybe we'll make an effort to actually present it into the working group and get their feedback as well.
Jidong?
Yeah, Jidong from Huawei. I noticed that this use case was actually in the appendix of the use case draft. Does it mean that if we want to bring it to a more formal discussion or adoption, maybe we need to move that one into a separate use case document and being endorsed by the data networking group?
Is that the M&A? Is this a question for chair? So, or maybe I didn't understand the question.
Well, actually, my understanding and recollection of what DetNet working group expressed is that this idea of latency budget is not being adopted by the DetNet working group. So I think that, and I agree with Tarek. So it seems like a solution to the problem has not yet been recognized by and acknowledged by DetNet working group. So let's first move in the steps. So first get DetNet working group agree that the latency budget propagation in the data packet is the viable and acceptable technology.
Yeah, so there is a M&A use case draft, or the MPLS M&A use case draft talks about the use case. There was a good discussion with the DetNet chairs, but agree, as discussed with Tarek, to present it in DetNet and get their review comments.
Right. So yeah. So if we look in the history, there have been long time outstanding individual contributions in the DetNet proposing the idea of propagating the budget through the network, and then if you are out of your budget, then probably dropping the packet is as good as policy.
Exactly.
But that is not yet been adopted by the DetNet working group.
And that's exactly what this is trying to solve. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.